Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Welcome to our first live Steel Q&A hosted by TLC Gardens. My name's Emma, and I have the pleasure of introducing Cheri to you today. If you all could just stay muted for the time being, we're going to share a little bit first about what we've been working on in Steel, and then we will get to the Q&A. So Cheri Stringer, she's been reconnecting her clients to the outdoors since 2005, designing and building outdoor spaces as the owner of TLC Gardens. She comes from a generation of 4 generations of architects, and Cheri trained in the field under landscape architects for many years before starting her own design build company. She has a Bachelor of Science with an engineering minor and a master's degree in molecular biology, a background in horticulture, and over 15 years of experience in building her designs in the field. Cheri also has a constant drive to learn and train and was professionally certified as a landscape designer in 2015. Under her leadership, the TLC team has gone on to win 10 International Design Build Awards. And in 2020 and 2021, the TLC team has been hard at work expanding our offerings with TLC Steel, designing and fabricating modern steel features for outdoor spaces across the country. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cheri.
Hey guys, I'm so excited that you're here today. I love sharing what we're doing, and we started this live Q&A for Steel so that once a month I can share what we're doing with our team in a brief, overview of just like what I'm designing, what we're building in the field, and then open it up to any questions that you have about Steel, what you're working on, so that I can interface with you and hopefully share my knowledge and take your game to another level or a different level if you want to start using Steel more in the landscape. I love Steel. It's such a powerful tool to do all kinds of things. And if you saw our Steel presentation in January, you know that we can frame things and build things and do just about anything with it. So today I'm just going to start with some benches and some pergolas that we've been building. I'm going to show you how I model them in Vectorworks and then what they look like in the field. So this is a pergola design where I've used hollow tube steel and hollow tube rectangle steel to make the beam. And then I've designed a bracket that goes on the top, and that's where the wood actually fits into the pergola. And we put a screw through that. This particular model, the 3D model, I use Vectorworks Landmark for all of my work, allows me to design each one of the pieces separately. And so I'm going to go ahead and just undo the joist tab here so you can see that each one of the posts has tabs that the joist then goes into. So the joist gets added to that. And then if I zoom in, what you'll see is that that's where we actually bolt into the beam so that the beam and the joist go together. And this gives us a really clean, seamless, modern look when we're designing these. And I can utilize this program so that I can see all these different pieces, and I can see what it's going to look like when we put all the rafters on it. And that also allows me to see what the finished piece is going to look like when I do a rendering for clients. I can show them, and let me just take a second to show you what those renderings look like. I can show them what that modern, pergola is going to look like when it's integrated into the barbecue station. A lot of times we powder coat the steel with black on the outside to make it modern. We'll use a modern color for that, or we'll leave it raw and we'll do raw steel. So here you see finished renderings of that model I was just showing you, where I'm using different components of the steel and then integrating them into pieces out in the outdoor living space so that, we get this finished modern look to the site. Now, one of the things that we were designing recently, or I was some benches for this site that sit into the hot tub. So I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to go to that layer, which is going to be 3D. And you can see I have the house turned off and all of that just to make it simpler for us to take a look at a few things here. But I wanted to show you how I put the components together for these seats and then show you their installation in the field. So this is a simple seat design. I just took tube steel on the outside using flat bar along the bottom, and then using hollow tube along the bottom for the posts. We used angle iron to support the flat bar, and then we inset that, and I'm just going to pull it down here. We inset it so that we could set in composite deck boards or wood deck boards to form these benches. Then we designed with each unit 3 different units to go together so that I could make this bench seating on the side of the hot tub. Now I'm going to go back to the view, the saved view. Okay, sorry. For the renderings. So you can kind of see how that gets integrated into the site. So we're using all these different components to do that. Now I'm going to show you a video of our guys in the field installing these. So you'll see this bench is upside down. There it is there with the hollow tube steel that's been welded together with the hollow post and the flat bar. And then you'll see install them into the deck. Oh, it's not playing. Let me go back here, reload it. There we go. Now it's playing. So here they are installed into the deck. That's the hot tub. And with that, you can see, I'm just going to fast forward here. You can see in this part of the video, you can see the black powder coated and the flat bar used here, as well as the underlying angle iron. You can kind of see a little bit here when I turn it sideways that we use to support these so that we can just set the wood in there and have those seating benches be enjoyed next to the hot tub. So this was something we just completed last week, and it's fun to share what we're currently working on in terms of the steel. So I'm going to open it up now just to Q&A. Any questions you have on steel, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll get to each person. Anybody have any questions? Well, you guys gotta have questions.
Andrea is raising her hand.
Awesome. Okay. Go ahead.
So what,
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi,
What,
Andrea.
how's it going? I'm so excited. Yeah. What thickness of hollow tube do you use on a bench versus like a pergola?
Perfect question. So I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to go back to the model because I can, you know, kind of spin it around, but I typically use, let me go back to the model real quick because there might be other things I don't want to point out. But I typically use 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch, and it depends on the application, right? So when I'm using hollow tube steel, I'll use 1/8 inch. If I'm using flat bar, I'll use 1/4 inch just because it tends to bend. If it's 1/8 inch, it doesn't have the support it needs. So let me go back to the that view of the bench. 1 second here. I'll go to 3D. Zoom in. Okay. So for example, on this model here, I've used hollow tube that's 1/8 of an inch on the bottom part of the bench. And I've used hollow tube that has an 1/8 inch wall on the frame around it. But on the flat bar, I've used 1/4 inch steel. On the pergola, it depends, right? So also, so I'm gonna go back to that one. And let me turn the rafters off. Okay. And then I'll turn the beam off or the joist off. Okay. So these guys, these little brackets, for these, I'm using 1/4 inch steel. But on the posts, I'm using 1/8 inch steel. And you can see that in the design, you know, in the model too, like
Yeah.
the wall thickness, you can see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're making the brackets yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
But
making it's all custom.
you can have any fabricator do it. I mean, we can, I mean, we've been like fabricating our own stuff just because it is fun to do. We've got a laser cutter now, and we've got a bender, and you know, a welder and all those things. But you can have any welding company fabricate these things. You know, if you design them, they can fabricate them and make them.
Yeah.
And the easiest thing is if your team has, does your team have any tack welding experience?
Yeah, we have a whole metal shop. We don't have the laser cutter yet, but we do have everything. We have grinders and welders and all that fun stuff.
Oh, that's perfect. So like if you guys have that, it's really easy to like outsource the fabrication of the components. For example, we can buy this hollow beam, right? And we can buy the hollow post easy. And then simply have someone make the brackets and tack weld them on. You can just tack weld them out in the field. A lot of times if we're doing raw steel, that's what we'll do. If we have to powder coat, a lot of times we'll just get the raw material, you know, tack weld the things we need to, and then send it out to powder coating and back. But just about anybody can make, you know, any good steel shop can make these elements, you know, prefab. So you can just assemble them too. Of course, there's a cost difference, but but it's fun to do them in your own shop. And you might want to consider getting a plasma cutter. You don't need the table, but a plasma cutter will cut through, you know, 1/4 inch steel plate, and it'll do it in like a 1/10 of a second versus using a grinder. You'll go through grinding wheels.
We do have that. Sorry, I'm not super familiar with it. Yes, but we do have that. Sounds familiar.
Oh, do you? Okay, that's awesome. Well, you guys have such an awesome shop. I had the wonderful opportunity of actually seeing her studio and her shop, and you guys have such a great site. So
thank you.
Yeah. So what do you have any other questions about that, or what steel work are you working on?
Yeah, nothing really right now to speak of. And then I was interested to see, so I know that you all are offering your steel to other designers. And so then I was thinking, well, if we just like plop one of Cheri's pergolas into a drawing, and then you can give us price, which I know we still have yet to have this discussion, but I think that's a really cool concept too. Is just, you know, you have the drawings and you have it all figured out, then we can just get it shipped to us, right?
Yep, absolutely. So here's some examples of that. I mean, this is a fire pit. I've set it up and designed it so that it ships in panels. So it comes to you with wood all wrapped around it. It's panels. So all your team has to do is stand it up and tack weld it together. This is an example of one. And then this pergola, for example, this is an I-beam pergola. So we have an I-beam and we have a hollow tube one, right? So both for modern looks, and they both of them bolt together. So this one bolts together with the post and the beam. So when it gets shipped to you, you'll have all the joists and all the posts and the beams, right? With the some with the brackets on them and some without, because when you do a pergola, you have two that have brackets and two that don't. And then you would be purchasing the wood in your area, but everything else would be sent to you and you would just assemble it. So this is an example of an I-beam one. And it's really easy to put them in, and I've got a leveling system and everything, and I've got the drawings. So if you've got like a design, you're like, hey, I just want to plop that in, I can send it, we can send it to you, and you guys can just assemble it on site. And you guys have a great team for that. So super easy. All you need is a wrench. So there's this one, and then I don't know that I pulled up an image of the hollow tube one. So, but I have that at my fingertips here. Let's see. So I don't know what size you're thinking of, Andrea, but like this was a smaller courtyard. So we can do just about any different kind of pergola setup. And you'll see the hollow tube one as a really like seamless, get together there. So it gives it a real modern look, but it also gives it a shadow line. There's an 1/8 of an inch shadow line there. And then we have these boots that are integrated in the bottom, and that allows us to hide the mechanism that levels it. So like you install it on a patio, and if it's got a slope, it allows us to level the pergola and install it. It also has holes for lights so that we have the down lights installed up here. And I have all kinds of designs for holes with shades so that you can mount shades to the side of the beam on the pergola. And, because a lot of times clients want to have that shade like in the afternoon or in the morning, right, to do that. So this pergola, the modern pergola, is by far our most popular product. Clients want it and want to install it. So I don't know which one you're thinking about, but there's some images of those.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I can see that one going over really well. We don't have as much modern in Kentucky as I'd like, so this is
I know,
like in between. Yeah,
you guys are like the shining star of modern in Kentucky, because when you're showing me your sites and stuff, I mean, it really comes through. And we did a really big one too. So I mean, we can do custom sizes. We have standard sizes, and then we have custom sizes. The custom are a little bit more than the standard sizes. I guess there isn't any of sharp in this one. Do you know where the sharp view images are? Oh, they're here. That's Gallagher.
Should be in 2020.
Yeah, that's where I was looking, but I didn't see him in there.
We have one question in the chat from Kathleen. Is there discoloration on patios from the rusty steel?
Yes. So one thing you'll notice, and let me show this one and then I'll get to that question. So this is a much bigger version of that, Andrea. So this one was massive. So like if you have a commercial project, right, that you need something this for, like we can make it big. The steel beam, you just change the thickness of the wall basically but that's what's nice about the steel beam is it can span really big, which just makes me love it, right? And I can also make it smaller. I've used it to make, roof structures and stuff like that. So yeah. So, okay. And then you asked about the question about, let me go back to the photos here of Gallagher. Hold on one second. I think I have it already up. Let's see. There's that one. I have a bunch of photos, but of course not the one I need. Okay, so let's go Gallagher Farm. So when you use the steel on a patio, you always have a little rust going down. So you have to design in kind of a wraparound for the steel posts so that it's not staining the patio. We don't have as much that drops down from the beam itself. I'm just looking for, that's the sign, that's the steel wall. There it is. Okay. So if you look at this photo, you'll notice on the patio that we have put a box around the posts. That's where you get the most kind of bleeding of the steel onto the patio stone. And you get a little bit from the beams. You'll see there's a little bit on the stone, but not as much. So what I've found is that I typically design a box around the posts on the patio, and that helps deal with when you're dealing with the raw steel so that you don't get, the staining. Now the staining does wash off of most stone surfaces, but not off of concrete. So if you have a concrete patio, it's going to stay on there more unless you've kind of finished it with a, a clear coat.
What kind of clear coat do you recommend to use for steel?
Oh, that's a great question. I used to use a clear coat and I don't use it anymore, mostly because if you're using weathered steel, most people want to get the patina. And when you put a clear coat on it, it tends to peel off and it tends to give you a look after about a year that you can't undo unless you burnish the whole thing again. And so I went away from painting steel and clear coating steel for that reason. However, if you want to, if you've got like a design where you're like, I really want to clear coat this, then I can send you some product specs on that. There's a very specific product that I use for that. And I can send that to you in an email and just say,
That
hey,
would be great.
what
I'm
we
curious
use.
about pre-weathering it so you get the patina finish and then
Yep.
applying a clear coat to kind of make it solid.
Okay. Why do you want to apply the clear coat to it?
We're for the rust aspect. I get asked by a lot of clients regards to concrete. They want it to be next to concrete or not drip down onto the concrete. So
Right.
I've been
Right.
told that automotive sealer has been a good thing to use.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what kind of things you run into.
Yeah, the clear coat I use is actually used in marine environments for boats.
Oh, very cool.
So it's actually kind of a mixture of shellac and a clear coat, and it really goes well with the natural rust appearance because it maintains that once you've got the patina. And muriatic acid is what we use to treat all of our steel. It gives you a really nice, clean, consistent finish on your steel. So a lot of people, you can go and get like Tilex or whatever, right? But you're not going to get as consistent of finish on it. If you use muriatic acid, though, we use rollers and we just roll it on, and it
Okay.
really consistent finish. And you can see that here, right? This was muriatic acid treated raw steel. So was this one. This is a utility enclosure that we did with, this is 1/4-inch steel. This is just massive and solid.
Yeah.
We painted this with muriatic acid so you can see the consistency of the patina. I don't know if you're using that for your.
What kind of rollers do you use?
We get those little foam rollers that are really smooth. And then you want to do it the same way you would paint a wall. You know how the technique you have is you go across, but you go at a diagonal, right?
Like the W type pattern. Yep.
Yep. W. Yep. Yep. And that'll give you that really nice patina on the steel, and then you can clear coat it. Just be sure to let clients know that the clear coat is like you have to reapply it, and it can flake and give a little bit of a kind of a spider web effect across the steel. So if they don't want that effect, sometimes you can design around it. You know, you can do, you can create a box. For example, you know, this was steel boxes that we used for stone, and we put them in between poured in place concrete. So if you're using like a steel screen or you're designing something, then you have the opportunity, you can create a box around it, right? If it's a vertical structure, that the you know, the natural rust patina on the weathered steel can just go into those boxes. Then you don't have to worry about it staining the concrete, and you don't have to worry about sealing it with clear coat, which ends up being an item. So
speaking of this one, I was curious, do you pre-buy or make these boxes in between? Because that's a great idea to contain the Mexican black pebbles.
Yeah, we make them in-house, and I've been making them for a while, and I drew a picture so that I could share this. So let me get that. These boxes are actually hollow in the bottom, and I've done them in a number of modern sites, big and small. And I'm just gonna put this up to the screen here. So basically it's just a hollow box on the bottom, and I just put flat bar along the bottom, enough to hold the rock in place. So I custom measure where the boxes are going in when I lay out the poured in place pavers. And then I just design a hollow box with flat bar across the bottom. That allows it to drain through. So for these particular ones, we actually had to, because the concrete sloped for the entrance, we had to custom make the boxes had a tapered, you know, kind of a tapered bottom, because they were, you know, from one pad to the next was, you know, a little bit higher. And I mean, they look fabulous, and you can make them, these ones are only 4 inches wide, but I've done them, you know, 8 inches wide, you know, just depending on the stride that you want to match for that.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome.
Do you have a project you're going to use those on, Matthew?
Yeah, there's a project where we're using, so we're doing a pergola structure out of steel, kind of like yours, and we're using steel screens in between. So that was what I was curious about, the sealing of the material so it doesn't drain onto the patio.
Nice.
And then
Okay.
also in between the concrete pads we're doing, I was thinking something like that be perfect in between, because we want to put some stone application between it.
Yeah. And then it'll naturally patina as well, because you'll
Mhm.
get that nice rust look. But one thing to keep in mind too, between, you'll see that there is a little bit of a lip from the, so I put them about 1/8 of an inch below the top of the concrete. And I
Mhm.
did that so it wouldn't bleed onto the concrete surface on the top.
No, I see that. That's smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. Well, we'd love to see pictures of your project when you're done.
Yeah, love to.
Yeah, share it, share it on here. We can all learn from steel. Steel is just such an amazing product. So,
Yes, it is. That's for sure.
mhm, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Matthew. Thank you so much for those questions. I yours too, Andrea. That was awesome. Jacqueline or anyone else, do you guys have questions?
I have a question. I don't know.
Awesome.
My hand's been up there for a while, but going back to the clear coating. So when you have those large pieces and they
Yep.
can't get in a vat to be clear coated, are you clear coat? I'm sorry. When you are doing the powder coating, my welder is like, you can't powder coat and then weld together. But if those pieces are that large, can you weld them together?
Okay, give me more context on what you're doing.
So like on your large
Mhm.
pergolas, you're
Yep.
powder coating all your beams and posts, and you're powder coating your beams with the brackets ahead of time. So then how is it coming together? Are there the welding up here, when this gets welded together, the beam to the posts?
Yep. Yep.
My welder says once it's powder coated, you can't weld it.
Correct. So you have to weld everything that needs to be welded beforehand. And then it has to just bolt together. So
Okay, so this is bolted.
it's bolted, yeah.
Got
So
it.
you might have missed the beginning where I was showing the don't back up.
Oh no, I saw that.
This,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know if you
understand.
saw this part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when it's being designed, I designed it so that for that, we're going to make all the brackets. The brackets are actually, a lot of times we'll do the brackets stainless steel, but if we want to powder coat them, we'll make them all. We'll make the beams that need them. We'll tack them all together, send it out to powder coating, and then we will just bolt it together.
Do you find that there's like a length limit or a largeness limit in order to fit into the powder coating bath?
I haven't found that yet.
Or are they
I'm sure
spraying?
there
Or are
is.
they spraying it on now these days? I'm not.
It depends on who you go to. So I have 5 different fabricators who do our powder coating, and they all do
Okay.
it slightly differently. Some of them do baths, some of them have long conveyor belts and they take them through an oven, right? Just it depends on their setup, but I have not found a length limit yet. The biggest one we've done, this very large pergola,
Mm-hmm.
is 28 feet across.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I imagine that I'm going to run into that. And then when I do, all it is going to be is just another seam, right? I'll just make another post, a double beam.
Gotcha.
Right, for something like that. But yeah, so you want to make sure everything that you want powder coated is welded beforehand, because you can't really do that afterwards. The only time that it's super easy, obviously, is if you're doing raw steel. When you're doing a raw I-beam design or raw steel design,
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Great question. A lot of people don't think about
Thanks.
that when they get out there and they're like, oh man, we can't weld this.
I have one more coming back at you.
Hey, go for it. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
A couple of years ago, I had my previous welder create a keyhole garden. If you know what a keyhole garden is, it's where you walk into the center of the keyhole and people use blocks or whatever to create this arc around the center, and the bottom's open. So it remulches and creates great compost. And we made these because we were doing a modern landscape. So we made these obviously out of raw steel. And the only thing was like, I didn't really get to see him bend that metal into like this perfect curves. I'm wondering if you know of any tips or tricks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Boy, we've done a lot of that. So a couple things. Do you do any of your steel work in-house?
No, we don't have that kind of facility.
Okay. So if you aren't doing it in-house, but you know someone, you're working with someone, what you want to make sure they have is a laser cutter, because what they can do is they can bevel cut. So if I have a long piece and I want to make a curve, I will actually create a little bevel cut on the inside. And that will allow me to bend the steel more readily, but still retain its structural integrity. So we do that a lot when we're making planters as well. And we want to get a bend look. For example, on this one, this isn't a curve, but we actually bent the steel. These aren't panels that we actually tacked and welded together. We actually bent this. And what we did is we beveled it on the inside. And you can also use a grinder to grind a little bit if you don't have a laser cutter. And you can grind it on the inside, and then it'll bend on that seam pretty easily as long as you have a straight edge. So a lot of times we'll do that. We'll put a straight edge in there just to bend it a little bit to get the leverage when we're doing curved walls or when we're doing something like this, like a corner.
Actually, I've seen that like with wood pieces before, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it works really, really well. So if you're doing your curve, that sounds fantastic. I hope you'll share some photos when you're done.
Yeah, it's going to be a retaining wall, not really a big one. It's more decorative, but there'll be like pebbles behind it. Yep.
Nice, nice. We did a very large retaining wall at the Gallagher site for the driveway, but it wasn't curved, it was straight. So that was an interesting project. Yeah, it was fun. It was super fun. So I look forward to seeing it.
I have a question for both of you, actually, in terms
Okay.
of what you do for retaining walls applications in order to make sure it stays straight, and then the steel itself doesn't bow out from the pressure of the soil and water. I'm curious what both of you guys have done kind of detail-wise to ensure it stays nice and straight.
Yeah, sure. So for us, what we did is we created an L, a triangle. So we had a flat bar that came out like this that was mounted to a pier. And then we had flat bar that went this way, and we welded a triangle to the back of the steel if the steel wall is my fingers, right?
Okay, so you create like a gusset type system?
Yep, a gusset type system that we anchored into a pier. And that was on the side in which all the pressure is, right? So if this is the side the soil is low, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where we put compaction or we're trying to retain, that's where this reinforcement system was put in. We also reinforced the back of the steel with 2x2 tube steel, which keeps the wall straight and doesn't allow the steel to bend. Because even when you have 1/4-inch steel and you're doing a retaining wall, 1/4-inch steel will bend with the weight of the soil, with the weight of what you're putting on it. So that's how we did it. How did you do it, Joel?
Exactly the same.
Same.
So
okay.
there's a pier, metal pier, and a triangle, and it's welded to the steel, and then that's bolted down to the pier to keep it from moving or shifting.
And then you got to keep in mind that you have all those panels that you have seams on. So when you put the panels together, you're going to have seams, and that's always a challenge if you have a long wall. So if you're thinking about doing a long retaining wall, Matthew, I always look at like what are the biggest sheets I can get, and then have the equipment there to move it, because the bigger the sheet, the fewer seams I have, unless I'm intentionally making seams.
Yep, but then also the heavier the piece to maneuver.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had to have our mini X and our track steer and all that, and people on the back of it to weigh it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome. Roberta, I haven't heard from you. Do you have any questions? You can unmute yourself.
I have no questions, just enjoying all the pictures and imagining what I might be able to do.
I bet you could do just about anything.
So true.
I'm so glad you joined. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe a design you're working on right now?
Let's see. Right now, more of a renovation.
Okay.
So fixing some terrible things. I think it always amazes clients that when we just finish with the demo, whether it's built or plants, they already love it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. And then just improve on that. But no steel work yet.
Well, you've got to fix that. You've got to use steel on your next design.
Indeed.
Thank you for sharing, Roberta. I appreciate it.
You bet.
So Andrea, do you have any designs you're working on right now that you want to share, that you could share with us? That you might be integrating steel?
Yes. So we're planning on doing a arbor. It's gonna have an X top. So
Nice.
and then
Okay.
design some wood fencing that would be in the X shape as well. But then I'm thinking we'll mix in some weathered steel gates with the wood, and I'm still designing those. So that's one project.
Okay. Nice.
I don't know. There was another project. Sorry, my brain is. Oh, that's the biggest one, I think.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So are you going to outsource the steel then? And are you going to use different components in your designing?
That's what I'm not really sure of right now.
Okay.
We're going to do it in-house or have it fabricated because it's totally custom, and I don't know, but it seems like it would be pretty simple in terms of the design that I did. It's all weathered steel. Of course, everything
Yeah.
looks simple on paper until you start building it.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, just make this happen. Yeah.
Well, some of the challenges that we've run into with steel, if you start doing some of your stuff, and one of the challenges is just knowing the methods, to use for the steel. Just like, what's the best way to cut it? What's the best way to weld it? Different types of welds, attack welds versus the, full bead welds. And also the bending technique that I talked about, that's been like a learning curve, for us. And we've gotten to the point where we actually stock a lot, of the regular steel that we use a lot of. So that's always that's the fun learning curve. And the biggest advantage that we've had recently is getting the plasma cutter. It cuts the time in half or more to do all these different elements in-house, and lets us do so many different things.
That's the other one was a sitting wall. So like a 5 foot area. So what I was wanting to do was on the back side of the sitting wall, and then have firewood storage underneath of it, but it's curved. So I guess a 1/4 inch is probably way too big to have that curved, but then.
Well, you can do a curve on 1/4 inch. It's just like a 1/4 inch. Sometimes the 1/4 inch looks better in the landscape because it doesn't warp as much. You'd be surprised how much an 1/8 inch steel will warp. So if I'm using sheet steel, I often will only use 1/4 inch or larger. I use 1/8 inch steel when I'm using hollow tube stock. Because it gives more impact in the outdoor living environment when you use the 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
But you can bend it easily if you grind it on the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what if it's the curve towards you?
Yeah.
Then you would be grinding it on the front.
If you're doing the curve towards you, then you would want to bevel it so that when you curved it, the bevel would disappear. So then you would need a laser cutter to bevel, and then you'd be able to curve it, and then it would close the curve, it would close the bevel.
Well, and it really, on the lower section, it wouldn't really matter because we were planning on that being at the back of the seat. And so then really firewood would be covering the front. So really, I guess the aesthetics on that, but if wood wasn't in there, I wouldn't want it to look sloppy,
Yeah, it sounds really cool. That's intriguing to curve it towards you. Will be an intriguing thing to do. It sounds awesome. One thing I'd love to do is combine wood and steel, because like if you do raw or you powder coat it, either way, the contrast is what really pops in the outdoor living environment.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, did anyone have any questions about the components I used in the beginning that I, showed on the bench and how we designed that? Did anybody miss that or want me to go over that again? Pretty straightforward.
I missed it, but what program is this?
This is Vectorworks Landmark. I use it for everything to design all the 3D models of, all the products that we're developing. And so, for example, this is just a bench that we've installed in a modern site. And I'm just using flat bar here, angle iron, and tube steel around the outside, and then tube steel for the posts. And what's great about this program is if I go back to, I'm going to go back to the pergola. I mean, not only can I do 3D model in here and separate out the layers and the joists, but I can also make these symbols so that when I go to make another one, I have a symbol here. I can just plop it right in. I can plop it right into a new post. For example, this pergola, I have 2 brackets because it happens to be for a barbecue station. And most pergolas, I don't do a post with 2 brackets, I only do 1. But because Vectorworks Landmark allows you to make the 3D model, of these brackets separately. And I've got I can turn the post off and then I can just go to the bracket. And you can see just the bracket itself. Because I can do that, it allows me just to plop it into a new model and make a different layout than I had before. And that's really useful when I'm doing some custom design for a site where maybe I'm changing it up a little. So what you see here is I've got one of our standard pergolas. And then for the barbecue station, I've actually made a double beam. This one has a double beam on it so that it has just a little bit more impact in the landscape. And then I've also designed a swing in the background. I don't know if it's in any of the rendering. I don't think it is. But this program allows me to do the renderings, allows me to do the 2D and the 3D all at the same time, and then to create symbols of them. So it makes it really easy for me to replicate the work and to do it quickly when I'm creating a new design. To just grab the symbol from the resource browser, plop it into the design, and it's already all the 3-dimensional elements that I've created before. So when I was showing you the bench, I made a symbol for the frame of the bench and a symbol for the post and a symbol for the supports so that I can change them up in any way that I might need. So.
Okay. Awesome. That sounds more efficient than SketchUp.
It is. It's really great because you can also do, well, here I can show you. Let's see here. Yeah. So this is a set of drawings that we'll create on our sheet sets. So Vectorworks Landmark allows you to have multiple sheet sets for one design. This, for example, is showing the design program and all the things that we're doing on the site. We have a sheet that's just the concept plan. And so you can make all of these sheets from one design and including your 3D model. So when I go into the 3D model, and I'm just going to, I don't have the house turned on right now, but I'm just going to turn on a show snap others so that it does show others. And let me just rotate this. So I can have all the different elements, the 3D and the 2D, all present at the same time. And that really is beneficial when you're designing to be able to just go back and forth between the two. That's what Vectorworks allows you to do. So I not only can, and I know Andrea, you use Vectorworks Landmark as well. It not only allows you to do the 2D displays and do all the dimensional drawings, all the construction drawings, but it allows you to have, once you get the workflow down, it allows you to have, this kind of workflow where you can design in 3D and see the 2D model at the same time and create sheet sets for whatever you want your client to see. So for example, this is a hardscape sheet set for my team, for my crews, so that they can lay out the decks and lay out all the hardscape patios. You know, this is an irrigation layout, and I can set it up for kind of standard, you know, standard details. I can do different details, like say for the bench, so that my team can see different elements of it. It's a really powerful program. I've been using it for 12 years. And you can do just about anything you want to do with it in terms of design. The newest thing that they have is that you can actually, in your design pane, have both the 3D model, the 2D model, and any details sort of split planed, so you can go back and forth. And that's really useful when you're doing something like this modern pergola design. Let me go back here real quick, because here, if I have, and I'm designing new parts, and I do want to be able to see all the parts together, and I'm designing them, and I have the opportunity to go to a split plane, which I'm not going to show because it kind of doesn't really work in the presentation format, but I can have this one up, and then I can have a section view through my post, or a section view of the different pieces that I have set up here. And all it does is it splits it into quarters, right? So I can see them all at the same time.
Okay,
and
wonderful.
that's really, yeah, it's really, it's an awesome program. So I don't know what you use right now, but I would recommend Vectorworks Landmark, because it's helped me be, you know, be able to move and work efficiently on these projects.
Gotcha. Okay, that sounds a lot more streamlined than going from AutoCAD to SketchUp.
Yeah,
It works.
it's all in one place, and you can see it all in the same, you know, and you can make changes to get things really accurate at one format.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I used SketchUp for many years. So if you're familiar with SketchUp, going to Vectorworks would not be difficult at all. They do a push-pull tool. I do a lot of my 3D modeling just with extrudes. But the really great thing about Vectorworks Landmark is that you can make symbols. So I can save it as a symbol. The next time I want to create this bench, I can just plop it into a design. So super
Awesome.
easy.
Thank you. And then
Yeah,
thank you,
you're
Emma,
welcome.
for that update. We got
Great.
someone else I got in mind who's they're doing some interesting rooftop walls and some landscape walls out of weathering steel. They weren't able to
Nice.
attend, so I think they would be great for next month's presentation, so we can ask
Oh
all the questions.
yeah, that'd be great. And please give us feedback on this. You know, I really want to make it something that is really valuable to everyone, that we can share our experience and our knowledge. And each month I'm going to bring something that we're working on just to open up questions. But I really want it to be valuable to all the professionals out there that are working in the field doing it. So.
Awesome. I'll reach out to some more people I've got in mind then.
Okay, great. Yeah, let us know how we can make it valuable. And we're coming up on the hour. So does anyone else have any questions or anything they want to talk about? We can hit that. Otherwise, we'll just go on with our day and have a really great day.
Thank you so much. That was
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Cheri.
Thank you.
so welcome.
Thank you again.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys. See you next month.
Thanks, Cheri.
See you next month. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Good luck with
Bye.
your projects.